saw you every day, so
5,
I don't know.
4, 3, 2. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year.
Yep. Your mic's not on. Your mic on?
Can you all hear me?
No.
Testing.
Try again.
Testing.
There it is.
There. Oh, okay. Now that everyone's awake, Happy New Year. And we are about to embark on a fiscal workshop. I first want to just go over a little bit of the housekeeping. We do know that member Stacy Hahn is also viewing as we speak, and she is perfectly aware of this meeting. And that member Snively will be also making sure that she's speaking whenever she needs to speak according to the queue. I want to go over the format for today's workshop. As we know, this is an important topic, meaning our fiscal ability to run a school board district. It's also a very comprehensive topic involving the complexity of a possible state takeover unless certain financial steps are taken by Superintendent Davis and his staff. We will let the superintendent go through his complete presentation, and then we will ask questions. We anticipate his presentation to take approximately 45 minutes. So please take notes during the presentation. Some of your questions will no doubt be answered during the second part of this presentation. Rest assured, we will have board member questions and comments after the presentation. After that presentation, I thought we'd get up and stretch for 3 minutes so we can get into our intense questioning situation. I want to remind the board that this is a workshop and no voting will be taking place this morning. Also, we are reminded that our superintendent is responsible for presenting to the board a responsible and detailed fiscal plan to assure the smooth operation of our school programs as it relates to our strategic long and short-term plan. I understand the emotional toll we as board members and our superintendent will be faced with due to possible cuts of staff and programs. Likewise, I ask each of us to continue your genuine acts of civility and respect for each other and for Superintendent Davis and his staff. So at this time, I'm going to have Superintendent Davis and if his staff is going
Madam
to join
Chair,
him.
if you will.
Sorry.
Board Member Vaughn needs to make.
Oh, I apologize. Member Vaughn, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to kind of say to everyone that over the break, unfortunately, my family was exposed to COVID. My husband was actually diagnosed with COVID, but luckily me and my son were not diagnosed with COVID. We were asymptomatic the entire time. We both have tested twice, once in the beginning and once in the end, both negative. Our doctor has released us from quarantine. But just in case, I will wear my mask this entire time and make sure that I'm distanced from everyone around me. So I just wanted to address that. And thank you to everybody who sent us good wishes.
Thank you, Member Vaughn. And at this time, I'm going to have our superintendent and his staff present the PowerPoint. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank everyone for taking the time today. Today you'll see me and kind of working through this general area because we'll have Dr. Kemp that will be in tandem in this presentation. In addition, you'll see that we have some of our great staff members from our financial department. We have Ms. Heaton, and we also have Mr. Brady as well. And then we also have the board here will be able to help us through this process as continue to be a financial advisor with us today. Overall, today is about an opportunity for us to really give an overview of where we are financially, what our makeup, what our corrective action plans will be, and what steps we have to take as a district in order to holistically improve the overall health of Hillsborough County Public Schools. And I asked for that PowerPoint to be put up so that we can interact through it. And each of you should have copies. And please note that originally we try to make certain that all the information that we provide, we do it up front. But due to the sensitive nature of this PowerPoint, and we want to make certain that everyone is seeing it at the same time for the first, together. That way, it's bundled with content, it's bundled with context, and the biggest thing is know that another rationale for not providing it, earlier for review is it's not an item that we will be voting on. I just want to bring that to the forefront and know it's not a form of disrespect in any way, shape, or form. I think it's really, really important that we go through this collectively so we can understand every piece of it due to the heavy content and the direction of the school district. So today we will try to get this clicker. It's on, sir. Sorry, fun times. We need it to work. It's okay, sir. Don't hold this against my time, Miss Gray. We'll shave it off. Okay, here. Let's just do this. Here, we'll just go right here. We need to be able to move it somehow. All right. Technical issues in 2021. Here we go. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. So overall, the presentation overview is for us to identify the current state of our educational finance supports for our school and our school district. In addition, for us to look at past, present, and futuristic financial revenues, look at streams, look at expenditures, transfers, and where we are overall with our fund balance, and to be able to look at our forecastability financially related to cash on hand, and at the same time, how does that look for the projectability to the end from January to the end of the year, and then finally talk about a financial corrective action plan that will put us in a better situation financially overall and get back on track related to our overall health. So the biggest thing we have to talk about in to have this conversation is not only looking at a corrective, but truly looking at the current status, financial status and commitment from the state of Florida related to organizations such as educational organizations in the 67 counties within the state of Florida. We know openly through a number of publications that we see that Florida is ranked 45th in Educational Week's respected national educational publication. This is really evident in Educational Week's Quality Controls Report, which is released in every June. It truly shows the overall academic status financial status of where we are related to comparative to every other state throughout the nation. It shows that while we are ranked 45th, there's only a handful of states that are underfunded, lower funding, receiving lower funding than the state of Florida, inclusive of Tennessee, Oklahoma, Idaho, and Utah as well. And then we see that Florida is at near the bottom of the subcategoricals related to per pupil spending, which is in how we receive money and how much we receive money for each individual state within our organization that we claim FTE for in both surveys. And then overall looking at how we ranked around 43rd related to the overall dollar amounts that are adjusted for regional cost differential. And if you look at other publications related to the National Educational Association, you look at the U.S. Census and also the National Center for Educational Statistics, it will also see that Florida is ranked at the bottom related to overall spending and further supporting public education in the forefront. With this said, we know that there has to be a collective effort, not only with our legislative priorities, and it is one of our priorities as a school board to seek additional funding on the base allocation and the FEFP portion of it. We also know that while we want to have this to be in lock and concert with the school board, with our lobbyists, with our administrators, with our parents, with our educators, with our community members, we've got to also recognize that while we are 45th throughout the nation, that every school district throughout the state is exposed to the same financial models, and then many of them are proven to have that competence of being above 3%. Meaning that while we have to have an overall trend and focus on generating money from the state, additional money to be able to provide ongoing resources to our students and for our teachers and be innovative in that solution, we also have to be able to make certain that what we generate, we're also going to make certain that our expenditures are aligned with that forecast, unless we have we generate additional financial revenues through our community as we have done with a half-cent sales tax to be able to address any, the billions of dollars of deferred maintenance within this organization. When looking at the overall current state of education in Hillsborough County, I want us to really look at, what we are funding for. We receive funding in a historical perspective from 2008, 2009, and really look at where we are from 2020 and 2021. This is the per pupil per spending that we get in the FEFP program, which is our educational finance program. This tells a story over time that tells us how much we've received per pupil. You can see in 08 and 09, we received around a little bit over $6,900. And if you look at where we are today, we only have receiving, a little bit over close to $800 more. And we look at the 12-year span, in which openly, from my perspective, we should be at a different trajectory, and we're not keeping up with the consumer price index, nor are we keeping up with the inflation related to our community impact and community needs. While there is a slight upward movement from 2011 to 2020, 2021, it's not a significant movement, and it really doesn't allow a school district, the 7th largest school district in the nation, and one of the largest school districts in the state of Florida, to really continue to maintain and be innovative and find solutions about how we further incentivize our teachers, how we further support our teachers, how we support our support staff, our school-based leaders, what magnet choice programs we may offer and what pathways we create, how we extend, to address the achievement gap with extended interventionists and services, what ongoing professional development that we create with having cutting edge. All of that is inclusive in this model, and if we had additional funding, it will allow us to do so. On top of that, this next slide is a comparative analysis from 2008 to currently 2021. Shows what we actually spend, what we actually get from the blue column from our Florida Educational Finance Program to what we actually spend within the organization. You can see that we spend a lot more on our students than we actually generate, and that continues to be a systemic growing concern. And as we looked at 19 and 20, there's been a greater discrepancy related to our expenditures to what we actually generate related to this model. And you can see from 09 to 2021, there's a total of an increase of around $799 per student that we openly expend related to, and we generate related to this document here. So FBA status, one thing we want to show is kind of where we are and what we generate. This is a 3-year trend. I'll let Dr. Kemp go through the next couple slides. This is a 3-year trend categorical. You'll see that there is a difference on the last column. That difference is the makeup between what we between 19 and 20 and 2021. Any additional fund we may receive from a categorical from FEFP. Please know that this is not in any way, shape, or form the remaining categoricals that we receive, because we can't touch those. This is all general fund FEFP dollars that we're able to expend. And the reason we put 18, 19 there is so we can just show you a true story and a 3-year analysis of what monies we are receiving from the Department of Education. And I'll let Doc go through this, and Doc, please highlight, I'll come back and highlight 12 after you explain this first.
Yes, good morning. When you take a look at this particular chart, you can see the difference column on the right, and mainly some of the different categories of funding that we have. You can see our base funding at $28.7 million, the compression dollars at 1.6. You go down that list, you'll see we've highlighted in red some of the programs, some of the categories that have been decreased over the last year. You see DJJ supplemental allocation was down 12,000. Digital classroom allocations were down 241,000. Go ahead and hit the next slide, boss.
Yes, and I want you to pay attention on this slide here. Just look at the row 12, the digital classroom allocation. You know, we received $3.2 million in 18-19, and over the last couple of years, we went down to $154,000. When the state elected to go from pen and paper to computerized assessments, you know, additional funding wasn't provided. And how do we address the digital divide within our organization? How do we continue to make certain kids have the necessary tools to be successful and devices? If we aspire to have that one-to-one initiative, the funding isn't there to be able to make that a reality.
Exactly. When you continue on to line 15 on category funding, the compression allocation, you see it's $2.2 million difference, the total funds compression from 19 to 20 to 2021. So we're down $2.2 million there. As well as our TISA fund, our turnaround supplemental and service allocation, you can see we received $3.2 million less in this last budget. Best and brightest allocation was also eliminated this last year, which put us in a hole in $21,325,000. When you take a look at the lottery, and we received less lottery and school recognition funds, but the total difference there, when you take away all what was different, it shows an increase of $50.6 million. But we really want to point out these are just three underfunded mandates with like line 24, 25, and 26. When you take a look at Safe Schools funding, what's required for us to provide safety and security, according to Marjorie Stoneman, we receive $11 million in funding for that. But in order for us to comply, we're having to spend $10.4 million more. And even with transportation, and this is consistent with all districts. These are underfunded mandates that create expenses for us. Transportation, we receive $32.7 million in funding, but we have to spend $30.5 million more to ensure that the transportation needs of our students are met. And then something as simple as the state mandated FRS increase of $10 million. It's $10 million more, an increase that we experienced as far as an expense. So though it looks like you received $50.6 million increase in the funding, just those three categories alone of the underfunded mandates kind of offsets any increase that we receive in the FEFP funding. Mr. President. And this is, the next slide is the general, okay, next slide. Next slide is the general fund revenue.
It's like a 2G.
One more.
Delay in it.
There you go. The next slide looks at our federal revenue. So we look at federal revenue received directly from the federal government. That's our impact funds, ROTC. That was down over the last year of 34,000. The federal dollars that we receive through the state, that's distributed through or in immediate agencies. That's your Medicaid reimbursements. Those types of categories, we were down $735,000. When you look at our state dollars overall in our operational budgets, it shows an increase of $43.6 million. But when you break that out, $21 million of the 43 is a pass-through to the charter schools as required by statute. So we received $22,588,715 from state. So it appears to be an increase. On the local dollars, we received an increase of about $4.5 million. So overall, when you take a look at the differences from the general fund revenue review, overall, it appears we have a $47.3 million increase in the fund revenue. I want you to hold on to that figure as we go through the next slides, because we'll show you when we get to expenditures how that's negated.
So not only do we show kind of where we are and how we arrived and what we generate from the Department of Education, we also need to be able to talk about not only what we generate, but what we actually expend in Hillsborough County Public Schools. So this is a pie chart that gives you an inclusive measure only of district managed schools. This chart is not inclusive of any charter schools in any way, shape, or form. And what it does is just break out some of the subcategoricals that we presented in the previous tables related to salaries and benefits, energy efficiency, services, purchase services, material supplies that we extend to our schools, capital outlay, and other expenditures. You will see the biggest thing in the red flag for me is that 87% of our budget from the FEFP is spent on salaries and benefits. Historically, that number should be in the low 80s. To be able to make certain there's a true balance for what you put on the classroom and what you put in the classroom, to be able to make certain that you have the necessary supports and materials and supplies and innovation to further support our learners and help them create robust pathways along the way, and making certain that we give the teachers everything they need in order to be successful every day. And hats off to our teachers and our support staff and our leaders. They're doing a really nice job every single day with what we have. And they continue to be heroes during a precedented time. Sorry, I'm having to click a couple times today. Here we go. This next slide is, I want to make sure it is the next slide. This next slide is a slide that I want to show comparative. And we always look at the Big Seven as, a comparative analysis, but we wanted to make certain we identify, additional, 4 or 5 school districts that are comparable to Hillsborough County, not only related to the number of students, but be able to break that out related to the number of employees, the overall efficiency from a school grade perspective, and how many underperforming schools that they have within their organization. I will tell you that when you look at the number of students in the first side of this chart, I would draw your attention to Broward County. They have 219,000 plus students, and they have 25,000 employees, okay? They have a B school district, and they have 8 underperforming schools. If you look at Hillsborough County, we have around 30,000 plus, students less, but we have the same number of employees with, close to the same number of employees as Broward County, who has 30 plus more thousand students. If you look at the comparable from a grade analysis, we had the same grade. We both aspire to be an A school district, but they have 1/3 of our underperforming schools, meaning that while we've had a number of employees in our school district, it may not have, we have to really look and question the return on investment and link it related to some of these other schools, school districts. If you look at Orange County as well, Orange County has a very comparable number of students, and this is without charter schools, and this is based on the 18-19 data from the Department of Education. They have the kind of close to the same number of students that we have in Hillsborough County without our charters, but they have less employees than we have, but they do have additional revenue streams. They have a half cent related to capital outlay projects, and they have a half cent that's related to particular projects to be able to incentivize teachers and add resources for their particular school district. Overall, they're an A school district, and they have less than half, and they have 12 underperforming schools within this model. In the next phase, out of the 18-19 data, because it's very difficult to get some of this information from school districts, and we try. Some of them are making us go through public records requests for it, and we're on their time related to being able to get that information back out to us. So being able to use the Florida Department of Education, this is an overall breakdown of the number of administrators, the number of instructional staff members, the number of managers that they have coded, and this is all about how they code, and they could code very different from each other, whether it's instructional staff, administrative staff. It shows you that comparative analysis. Sorry, I'm trying to get the clicker to work. This next slide is a historical general fund expenditure review. I'm going to let Dr. Kemp kind of get to this. This is going back to look at the $47 million slide that he asked you to kind of put a pin in to be able to show the comparison of where we are currently with expenditures.
So when you think back to the charts that show the revenue and the expenditures every year over the revenue over time, when you take a look at the first line at salaries and benefits, just the difference in 18-19 to 19-20, there's a $60 million difference, an increase in expenses on salary and benefits just for last year alone. So when you look at salary and benefit, that's employee compensation and benefits, including retirement, FICA, et cetera. So you have an increase in cost of $60 million for our workforce. Purchase services was an increase of $34 million with purchase services. Now, also included in that $34 million is our money paid for charter schools and payments to charter schools that are pass-throughs. Energy services, we did better, $5.3 million down. A lot of that may be contributed to buildings being shut down during COVID. Materials and supplies also as well, we're down $9.5 million. So our capital outlay, we had expenditures of $1.9 million more. So when you take a look at the expenditures, I told you to hold on to that $47 million figure. That appears that we had the $47 million in revenue. Some people say, well, what's the issue? You're getting more money. But the expenses continually outweigh our revenue every year and have been doing it for decades. So you have $81 million in expenses that somewhat offset any of the increases of revenue. So the previous slide that Mr. Davis just went over regarding employee numbers, when 87% of your operational budget is tied to salaries and benefits, there's a compounding effect in the cost of employees. Every year the employees become more expensive, and it has not been keeping up with increased revenue over the last decade.
And let me point out the different. This is just to show that, you know, the financial, where we are financially. This is in no way, shape, or form to discard any hard work that individuals are doing to fight for teachers. I'm just going to tell you right now, CTA does a wonderful job trying to make certain that we pay teachers in a competitive salary. They do a really nice job, and we're not, their job's not done yet, because we still have to continue to right-size veteran teachers within the state of Florida. We know that early adopters and early career educators and new teachers are compensated, and openly they're just doing their best job they can do to make certain that we value teachers and we are providing the right financial incentive package in order to keep them in Hillsborough County, and we thank them for their continued partnership in this work. This is overall about us just showing you where we are. Now, we have got to go get another revenue stream, or we've got to get additional funding from the state to be able to help us through this process. This slide here is about expenditures compared to revenue. This is a historical trend from 12 to 13, and also transitions up to 2020, 2021 or 1920. And this shows this is the black line. It indicates the billions of dollars that we generate from FEFP, and at the same time what we actually expend from a school district. You can see that there's been, there were 12 and 13. It was a really close analysis. Hats off. There was some grant money, I believe, that started in the, maybe prior or to the 11-12 school year that really allowed the school district to stay afloat and be able to address some over expenditures. And then I do believe up to the first year of 14-15. There was one-time monies that were saved up, and Mr. Ford maybe will speak to it. I don't know if he wants to do it now or a little bit later. There was one-time money saved up in that particular area as well that we're able to use and be able to fill gaps along the way. You see a gap starts to be created in the 14-15 module, and then you start to see in the 14-15 all the way to 19-20, while we generate X, there was a major financial gap. And being able to have particular one-time monies to be able to transfer over into the general fund allowed us to stay afloat, to be able to continue to make certain we're further protecting our employees. And I get it. Our role and responsibility is to protect the 25,000 employees that we have, and we'll continue to do so. The problem is when one-time monies are exhausted, then there's got to be modifications made. And that modification does start openly at the district level first, and lastly trying to impact those who are in front of children every single day. Anything, Doctor? You good? All right, so here, so the current question about where we are from a financial perspective and financial status, you can go ahead. This shows a unassigned fund balance from 2011, and Doc will talk about where we are with that.
Okay, so when you look at the unassigned fund balance, people think fund balance is cash in the bank ready, sitting aside like a reserve account, and I just want to be very clear, that's not exactly the way it works. The fund balance is made up of categorical dollars that are rolling forward that you can't touch, and then you actually look at you have the unassigned fund balance, which is like liquidity, the cash that you have on hand. So if you take a look at the chart, you'll see that the percentages on the top from 2011, you started with a 6.79% fund balance, but the actual cash on hand, the liquidity portion of that was $95.1 million. So when you take a look at the total fund balances along the way with cash, as far as the unassigned fund balance, it appears as everything's stable, 6.79, 6.94, 6.71, and then in 14, it starts to dip as far as the fund balance is concerned, 6.3. We stay in the low sixes, the high fives for the last 4 or 5 years, and it appears to be consistent. So a question we get all the time is, well, why now? What happened now? I mean, everything was fine. What was happening in the background to ensure that, we tried to keep that fund balance? Previous administrations and the finance team, the last 4 or 5 years have been a make it work, make it happen scenario, to where we're trying to, we exhausted every avenue to try to continue to maintain the fund balances across the board. So when I say that, I say that when you transfer capital reserves to offset general fund, or you actually exhaust all your other categorical reserves that you had. But over time, you'll see a slide here in a second that shows you exactly what that looks like. So it appears that the fund balance was stable across the board, and we were able to maintain it. Congratulations, to the previous teams that had a strategy to be able to make things work and continue to keep things afloat. As those reserves go away, you'll see as we get to 8/30, the last time, we started $118 million fund balance this last year at 3.91%, but cash on hand was $70.8 million. Now, I just want to reemphasize on something. Our current payroll is $68 million every 2 weeks. And so you're talking about $136 million a month in active payroll. So on June 30th, 2020, that is a snapshot of time of the financial picture. So we had $70.8 million cash in hand. I just want to clarify that on July 1, we're going to start a new fiscal year. But every bit of the fund balance from year to year immediately on July 1 goes to cover payroll during the July, the mid-July period, the payroll period. We don't receive any money from the state until end of July. So immediately, whatever's in the general fund balances is used to help cover the cost of our active payroll. So once again, when you have $68 million every 2 weeks, or $136 million a month in active payroll, $100 million sounds like a lot of money, but it gets eaten up very quickly. Next slide. Now, so why did it appear stable? So over the last in 2014, all of our categorical reserves were beginning to be exhausted, and were exhausted. So when you start looking at categorical transfers to offset the general fund, there was nothing left but capital. So we started reclassing. You can legally reclass capital dollars. It's legal. Legal expenditures can be reclassed to the capital account. But you can see what happened. From 15, the $7 million was used to help create that figure. 16, $41 million. 17, $38. And you go down. So over the last 5-6 years, almost under $197 million. $196 million has been utilized to help offset. So if you'll go to the next slide, you'll see that the fund balance, and when you take a look at why it looks so stable from 14, 15 to 16, 17, I don't blame it. Previous administrations were doing everything they could do to make sure that we met the obligations with payroll and met the obligations with our vendors. Interestingly enough, and to point out, when you look at 2010, 11, at one time, your fund balance was about $361 million, but there were some ARA dollars in there that kind of do that. But we started, you can see the decline in the actual reserve started 10, 11, 11, 12, 12, 13, 12, 13, and 14, 15, where it appears to be stable. That's when a lot of the reclass and exhausting categorical reserves had taken place. So we get down to what we're projecting now for the end of this school year. If things remain constant right now without an intervention, we're looking at a negative $23 million fund balance. Now, we started this year with a $32 million fund balance. So you're looking at a negative $23 million fund balance without an immediate intervention. The chart on the top, I wanted to make sure everybody understood that we're 23 short on the fund balance. We're going to need $110 million with the required state and local restricted dollars for the fund balance, as well as our required reserved, our assigned dollars. We're going to need $110 million to get back to the 3% level to make sure that we do everything we can do to be in compliance with the state statute with the fund balance reserve at 3%. But we're projecting a negative $23 million fund balance without a significant intervention.
So this is all about just a document that talks about our salaries, our fringe benefits, other expenditures where we expend around $1.9 billion. It's also inclusive of what we actually generate from a revenue perspective, and shows where we will be a projected shortfall overall financially at the end of the year. This is a fascinating, it really tells a story from a 3-year perspective that talks about our cash on hand. And Dr. Kim's going to walk through where we are from 2021 historically from last year, and show you some points in time that really could have really hurt our organization without being able to take out the 10 to further support our employees. And I'll let Doc work through this.
Thank you. If you recall the previous board, I sat right there back in August and September, and we talked about the serious concerns with cash balance and the problems and the need to try to make corrections in the fall. When you take a look at this particular graph, this to me is the most powerful graph in the entire presentation. This is the general fund daily cash balance. It's net. It's without the tax anticipation note. If you take a look at the orange line, and when you take a look at the orange line, you can see compared to the green and blue lines compared to previous years, you can see we start $32 million in the holes, or $32 million fund balance. So that's the difference between the gap. But as you work through July, August, September, October, if you recall, in October, we did something historic in Hillsborough County. We actually had to, the previous board had to undertake the decision to pursue a tax anticipation note. You can see that orange line. That red line is $0 in cash balance, but you can see the orange line as it declines. If we would not have taken out the tax anticipation note in October, because of the leadership of the board and the finance team, if we would not have done that, that's $75 million TAN. You can see here in November where the orange line dips below the zero line. We would have had a payroll crisis in November. Thankfully, we did a tax anticipation note. A lot of districts are doing that as routine practice every year just in case. But we did, for the first time, we did the tax anticipation note. It was a 90-day, $75 million loan. It kind of bridged the gap with the cash between November and December when we receive our new revenue. Now you can see when we receive our new revenue, we go back up in December and we start drawing down on the revenue for our payroll obligations and our expenses for the district. As you get to February, you'll see on the orange line that gap starts to widen. Well, when we repay the TAN, the $75 million was $90, 90-day TAN. You have to repay the TAN, so that gap starts to widen. Something really, really important about that orange line from December to now. It is 100% dependent upon property tax projections remaining what we projected in the budget, what we're expecting. Now that varies. It could go up. Tax distributions could go up. We could receive a higher amount, or we could receive a lower amount. In the first, in December, when we received our first tax distribution, it was approximately what, Mr. Brady? How far down? $40 million off of our projection starting in December. Now, we anticipate that we will receive additional tax distributions, so we'll receive some that are over that line and some that are under. But just for the board and the community to understand, and our employees to understand, if we stay constant with our projection on the orange line without an immediate intervention and corrections for our organization, when you run the cash, we have a cash book register, when you run that and you look at every 2 weeks what goes out and then our payments and our FICA and what we have to pay, you're looking at a payroll crisis for a payroll crisis in May, our ability to make payroll without an immediate intervention. And the stressors of that on the finance team and the stress on the organization is, when you're always chasing, when your expenses are greater than your revenue for as long as it's been, it compounds. And as it compounds, you have to continue to make the corrections. We're going to try to do everything. We're going to do everything we can do to avert any type of payroll crisis for our employees. But I just wanted to know the reality. I think I tried to present it in August and September, the reality of the cash balance issue at hand. So that's, to me, it's one of the most telling slides we have. And if we stay on projection, we're good. Maybe we'll get more, would be better. If we have a state intervention, even if we have the ESSER grant coming in, possibly we can transfer some expenditures, but we do that hesitantly. So I'll let Mr. Superintendent talk about the immediate challenges that we face.
So thank you, sir. So overall, as we project in November, thank you for being able to take a bold stance for the TAN, and then looking at where we are from a May to June perspective, we got to figure out a way to protect our the 25,000 employees that we have. However, the immediate challenges still exist right now. It's about cash availability. It's about being able to make certain that the first priority of this organization for me as the leader is to make certain that we meet our active payroll and that everyone is taken care of under this umbrella. The second tier is that we have to focus on is our reserve balance, because right now our projectability, we are projected to be under 3% as of June 30th, 2021. And that comes with a number of action steps that we have to take as an organization. One being able to send a letter coupled with a corrective action plan to the Department of Education into Tallahassee, letting them know where we are from a financial perspective and what corrective action plans we will take in order to rebuild and refine our finances to get back in balance for what we actually generate and what we actually expend. And then overall, time continues to be our issue, because we can right now just say that if I told cut, let's just say, a couple thousand positions today, it's not going to be time enough from now until the end of the year to be able to recoup a sufficient number of dollars to be able to meet that payroll. So we've got to be able to find an additional revenue stream in order to further protect. But and then overall, we've got to make certain that over time we have availability. We don't have time to be able to reclass as in the past as the strategy was used. And so corrective action scenarios. So where are we now? Now that we look at how the state funds us, where we are financially from Hillsborough, we looked at our expenditures. But we look at a number of reviews and audits that we have had within Hillsborough County going back to 2015, 2016 with the Gibson Report, being able to look at the Council of Great City Schools, being able to look at auditing firms, look at agency reviews, and also partnering with our financial advisors. I have these in front of you. These are all of the audits and the conversations that I've had. One thing is consistent in these audits is that we've got to make some hard decisions to be able to get back in balance. And they're unfortunate. No one wants to be able to potentially refine or reduce the number of employees that we have in the organization. But overall, we're going to have to take an uncomfortable stance, not to protect Hillsborough County from today, but 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years from now, as we continue to protect our reputation and become one of the premier school districts, not only in the state of Florida, but throughout the nation. So overall, we look at layoffs. It's just not, when we talk about overall making corrections and being able to, be in hardships financially, these are just a number of our local communities, businesses that have had that impact as well. And you see Walt Disney have had major impact on them, but also, USF, Tampa Times, and you see it continues to be able to impact in a local manner. So overall correction plan. Let me start out by saying that this plan has to happen. It is one that we have to move forward with. It is one that will protect Hillsborough County for the future. We've got to, and please know that when we talk about this, we are projected right now to get, let's just say, close to $200 million from CARES Act 2. If and when we get that money, which I believe in the coming weeks, we should have availability of understanding how much money we get, how we can use that, the term. We will use that holistically to address every one of the corrective action steps that impacts employees in a negative manner. So you'll see, so the first step is identify and to generate a revenue stream of $100 million. We have got to find $100 million. We do believe that the CARES Act 2 is going to allow us to have that money and reach that number for us to be able to assist. There's additional monies coupled. However, in this plan, we're asking, my plan is that every 12-month employee immediately now to the end of the year, we who work in the summers, that's 4 days. We work 4 10-hour days. We will be asking every one of our 12-month employees who will work 4 days, 8-hour days. That means that every 12-month employee in the month of June and in temporary status will lose 4 days. That's inclusive of Addison Davis. That's inclusive of the administrative team. That's inclusive of everyone who's in 12-month employee. If we find money and identify money through the CARES Act 2, we will eliminate that strategy, because I firmly believe when we establish contracts and agreements with personnel, we should address them and keep them the way that we do. It is our commitment. It will always be my commitment as a leader of this organization to do so, to protect what we agree upon with our employees. But if that's a strategy and we don't get finances, then we will all suffer, inclusive me and my leadership team. In addition, also looking at employee attrition, we, from now until the end of the year, we will generate around $3.6 million related to the attrition of our work, positions we will not fill. Also, we will reduce overtime for 50% of $1 million that we currently have. We'll just have to compound that during the workday and be able to potentially shuffle priorities. We've reduced the non-district salary budgets by $4.5 million and that we have at the district level. And then we will look at particular grants to figure out what we can do to be able to move general fund dollars legally to grant funding to be able to alleviate some of our funding within this model, and then also reduce any out-of-county travel by $1 million. The $116 million, if we can do this plan, will allow us to get back to the 3% threshold where we will not be able to, we will not be required to write a letter to the Department of Education. And I'm really confident that the money from the CARES Act will be able to address holistically the first two bullets potentially in this recommendation of year one.
And I just want to reiterate that the very first item there, we have to identify and create a revenue stream. If it's the ESSER, if it's the stimulus dollars, if it's the ESSER grant, just keep in mind that one of the reasons we keep having to have these difficult conversations is there's been past practices of making it work. And one of the ways they've made it work is to transfer as many expenses off a general operating fund to a grant or a one-time grant or non-recurring revenue. The blessing about receiving the stimulus, if we receive it in time before the orange line goes below the red, the great thing about that is it might help us avert the immediate payroll crisis or the payroll obligation, but it does nothing to correct the issues that have been compounding this problem over time. Like I said, there's been past practices of using categorical reserves to transfer to the fund balance, using capital reserves to transfer to offset expenditures away from general fund, which helps with the fund balance at the end of the year. But the reality is that's money that if the money does not continue and we can't count on that dollar to continue, it does not correct the systemic problem. And so one of the things about the second year that he's about to discuss is the second year actions are tough decisions that we have to make as a board to ensure, and as a team, to ensure that we correct this problem once and for all and have a final conversation regarding what needs to be done to right size it so our revenue is in line with our expenses. Great, we can fix it and avoid the hard conversations for the short term, and that's been the strategy to make it work. It's my responsibility to recommend to the superintendent and to this board that even if we identify a $100 million revenue stream, we absolutely must continue with the corrections that all the external auditing agencies and our consultants have indicated that we must make, so we don't have to have these conversations in the future. So the second year.
So to look at the first one, when we find this $100 million, hopefully through the CARES Act 2, to be able to generate, we got to make certain that it will solve our cash flow problem, be able to pay our employees. The question is that we got to get some information related from legal auditing and from the Department of Education. Will that act as revenue so that we can count it towards our reserve balance? Because openly, you know what, we have the fortitude and the ability as a team, this leadership team, myself and the board, to be able to get us to a point where we don't need the state here helping us through this process. They're there as a support factor, but we should be able to right this ship and get it in the best direction for us. And we know what's best for our community and our children and our employees as well. Once again, corrective action. While we may find some CARES Act 2 money, we have to be able to make hard decisions, and we have to realign the over-allocation positions at the administrative level, support, and potentially the instructional level to equivalent to around $140+ million. When I say that, we will look openly at the district staff again. We will do an immediate audit. We've already asked our cabinet to look at where we could potentially make cuts at the district level, Velasco, ISC, because I think it's extremely important that we do that review and that audit and make those changes. Then that will trickle all the way down to, what are we doing to support schools? Anyone that is not in front of kids will be reviewed for potential cuts. Teachers will be the last potential conversations about how we impact particular cuts. We have to model that way. We have to do it. We've done that since I've been here. But overall, we're going to have to make some tough decisions, and we will be doing that over the next 30 to 60 days in order to inform our practice. In addition, potentially, we may have to ask every employee in this district to furlough for 3 days. I know that's impacts everyone in this organization. That's $20 million. If we get CARES Act 2 money, once again, I will substitute that out, and that will not be a strategy, because one thing we don't want to do is try to find ways that impact any employee in this organization in a negative manner financially. But we have to make hard decisions. But we have to look at attrition for the next school year, 21-22 school year. That'll bring us $9 million. And then potentially to look at Spark. I know next year will be the last year of Spark. If we have CARES money too as well, that will be able to alleviate. We'll be able to alleviate and find additional funding as well, and that will be removed as a strategy. But overall, it has to be listed because it's a potential issue. You may not know that while the first year of Spark, and I think the initiative is great to be able to recruit the best and the brightest teachers and most effective teachers to our underperforming schools, I think it's a great strategy. And openly, I don't think $7,500 is enough. We should be around $20,000, but I know that we have restraints with funding. But the issue is that the first year the district was allowed to use Title I funding, categorical funding, holistically to pay for the entire Spark initiative. We try to roll over and do the same thing in year 2, but the state changed the criteria in mid-stride. So we had to stop, we had to readjust, and now we're looking at between $9 to $11 million that are not going to be covered this year related to the Spark money in Title I. Now they've said we can only use 60% of that money in Title I. I argued tremendously, as so did the team, along with Gretchen, to ask how can you allow us to do it year 1 and not allow us to do it year 2. And when you set a precedent, you've got to continue that work. Openly, we got denied through that process and not being able to allow to do it. And openly, I don't think that's good practice. I think that once you commit and allow us to use money in a certain subset of pocket to incentivize teachers, it should be able to do so in consecutive years. But overall, I only bring this to the table because it's an overarching concern financially that we will have to address. But once again, CARES Act 2 money should wipe away 2 and potentially 3 as we seek to protect our employees, every employee in this organization. So overall, next steps, things that we really truly have to do in addition to the corrective action year 1 and year 2 plan. We've got to really look at schools that are under-enrolled and really consider closures, look at potential consolidations, and to be able to look at district or redistricting boundaries. We can no longer afford to have schools of 200 students. And we have 60 schools that are under the capacity of 70% in our school district. And I'm all about neighborhood schools. I'm all about continuity. I'm all about being able to support learners. But additionally, we've got to look at, can we openly afford to continue to have under-enrolled schools that are costing us a significant amount of money to continue to operate every single day when we can potentially close, consolidate, or reboundary. I think that has to be a strong conversation within the next 30 to 45 days. And then also review and know this. I've done this before in Duval County. It's really, really, really uncomfortable situations and conversations that we have to have, because that conversation just doesn't start here. It has to go to the community because the community is impacted. And there's a lot of rich history and tradition that we will have to respect and we'll have to listen to, and we'll have to articulate where we are. But openly, financially, we've got to be able to make smart decisions. At the same time, never suffer from providing high-quality instructional opportunities and experiences for children, nor further supporting our teachers to be successful. And then also review low-income programs. Look at programs that we're offering. Low enrolled programs. Are we offering pathways that have low enrollment? And is it giving us our return on investment? We have to have those conversations and to consider looking and determine whether or not a program is somewhat feasible to continue to offer. Maybe we don't offer one program, but we offer another program, or we're able to provide that opportunity to another school. And then review magnet programs and consider consolidating to maintain programs in our districts. These top 3 are hard decisions. Very hard decisions. But openly, my role and responsibility is to push everyone in front of me, everyone in this organization, to have these conversations, to be able to drill down and find the right strategy to be able to be efficient and reliable in Hillsborough County Public Schools. And then also we have to look at 4, 5, and 6. Looking at the cost of overall cost analysis in every one of our verticals, especially in ROSAC. Are we efficient? Do we need this number of support employees? I do believe there's been a constant concentration over the years to be able to reduce the number of administrators in the district level over the years, and hats off to the past administration for that work. And then also know that there's been conversation historically about looking at, and I'm not saying I'm recommending this in any way, shape, or form, but being able to look at other services to determine overall cost analysis where the efficiency is. Can we save money, and where does that money can in particular be saved on line number 4? And then looking at 5, the transportational costs. How do we recoup that funding locally? How do we recoup that funding from the Department of Education? And then security. We spend $10 million due to the fact that due to the horrific event that happened, tragic event that happened in Parkland. Wholeheartedly agree with the expectation that we have individuals at our schools every single day to further protect our employees and also our students. The issue is how do we lobby and concentrate together to be able to get this fully funded, not only for Hillsborough County, but for the entire state as well. Anything here?
So after we make it through the corrective action plan year 1 and year 2 for 21-22, all 6 of these items are extremely difficult conversations, but they need to be investigated at least so we can rule out what would help us become either more reliable and efficient as an organization to ensure that we can support the number of employees and the size of the organization that we can afford to continue to support through our revenues that we receive.
All right, so things that we've done since March 2020. We've cut 424 vacant positions that were funded. We had 1,300 vacant positions that were in the hopper, but only 424 were actually funded. The rest were not funded. So if all those positions would have been filled, or our gap would have been greater. We had to cut around 45 temporary positions, which we have successfully been able to hire a lot of those individuals back due to attrition. We've cut and reassigned a number of positions at the district level and reassigned personnel from the district level to school-based services. We've reduced the number of out-of-county travel. We've cut budget locally in the district level. We reduced overtime. And also we've leveraged the ESSER grant to be able to address the digital devices divide, whether it be Wi-Fi connectivity, curriculum, instructional platforms. And me coming in openly, no one knew about where we were financially from a crisis perspective. And maybe we would have held off on the project that was approved in April for the front office renovations, and being able to strategically look at every one of our expenditures differently if we knew this crisis was before us. We can always go back and be the Monday morning quarterback. So if we knew immediately in March where we were financially, openly there's potential of maybe refining our efforts immediately to be able to catch up. But the status is where we are now, where we've been identified as. But we've done a really nice job using ESSER to be able to cover expenditures such as any learning platform, any curriculum that we've used, along with digital devices and PPE as much and where we can to be able to be successful. So what do we do now? The priority right now is to find that revenue stream, to leverage the CARES 2 Act when we get it, and protect every one of our employees from any negative impact financially to them, because we understand what they're doing now. We don't pay them enough. We don't pay our teachers enough. We don't pay our support staff enough. We don't pay our leaders enough as well. Everyone. We in education, we've got to figure out a way how to find revenues, and then we've got to be able to be prepared immediately to potentially draft a letter if that CARES Act 2 money doesn't allow us to be received in revenue. I do believe it will be, but we've got to be protected and ready just in case we're under the 3%. In January, in this January, starting now, we started it last Friday, we will be reviewing in Cabinet to be able to do an efficiency review audit of everyone in ROSAC, everyone in ISC and Velasco to determine their overall organizational impact. And that's from district leadership, that's from support staff, all at the district level, so that we, sir?
On the general fund.
That are related to the general fund. Remember, we have a lot of individuals that are covered through grants. That doesn't help us to be able to reduce those. We should leverage those. Everyone that is on a grant, they will be informed of when their grant expires. because we can't pick up that position moving forward because we don't have the funding revenue to do so. And then overall in February we will start. I met with the principals this morning. We will start looking at the staff allocation models to determine to meet with our principals in partnership, allow them to defend their master schedules, allow them to defend their school improvement plans, allow them to defend their actual needs in schools, so that we can make certain that we give them the necessary personnel to be successful. But openly, we have to be able to look at not only district leadership, but also there's some overages in school-based admin. There's also, we've got to look, and I say this, and I am one that we're instruction, that's my wheelhouse, and I'm all about making certain that we have coaches to further provide coaching cycles, lesson studies, to be able to drive professional development at our schools. But openly, we'll have to have the hard conversations about coaches as well, because we've got to make certain that if we have positions in schools, they're actually generating FTE, and that's being in front of a student every single day. So those are hard conversations that we'll have to have in February as well. And there's around 488 coaches that we have in this organization that service and provide. They do a really masterful job helping our teachers, but they have to be a part of that conversation as well. One thing we will not do, I will not do as a leader, I cannot in any way, shape, or form. I can't take, transformational network. We've got to continue to support the integrity and address the equity and be unapologetic about that effort. And so they will openly, in schools in need, whether it's a programmatic approach, school improvement approach, or class size, we'll be able to give them the resource needed to be successful. And then we've got to start working with, continue to work with HR and HCTA to be able to have continual collaborations about whatever impact and whatever bargaining unit may be in order to be successful. Let me say this very clear. I know this is a lot that we provided today. We're not standing here in front of you today pointing the finger at anyone. It does us no good. This is the status of where we are financially. Everyone prior to Addison Davis and this leadership team and everyone prior to any board member, they did the best they can do with the information they had to further support Hillsborough County Public Schools. Our job is to roll up our sleeves and figure out collectively. I commend, and I have to say this, I commend the work of Iran, I commend the work of Stephanie Baxter-Jenkins, and also Rob Crete. They do a marvelous job helping us making certain the realities to make certain that we compensate our teachers in the right way. And we should always continue to do it when we're willing and if we have finances to do so. And we'll work together in this process. So these are hard decisions that have to be made. And at this time, before I go, I want to go to Mr. Ford, who's our financial advisor, and asked Mr. Ford, is there anything that you want to add, anything that you think you wanted to potentially adjust or provide information about historical or current status of where we are financially?
Sure, just a couple of things. Is my mic on? Okay. Just a couple of things. For those of you who are new, we are the district's municipal advisors. We are not CPAs. We are not lawyers. We work with you on your debt portfolio. We work with you on policies and procedures and other special projects from time to time that the administration would ask us for. We don't make decisions for you. We give you our honest and blunt recommendations, and then we make your decisions look the best that we can make them look. We go out there and we work on your behalf. Superintendent Davis asked me to address other monies that might have been in play during this period of time when fund balances were being drawn down. And specifically what he's talking about is across 10 or 12 separate categories, there were surpluses, legitimate surpluses in those various categories that totaled over $63 million, about $63.5 million. Beginning in 2015, right in that time frame, after the new teacher contract came in, more teachers chose that contract than was anticipated. Those monies were exhausted over the period of a year or two, in addition to some drawing down on fund balances to offset many of those costs. So you're a little shielded from the actual numbers when you just look at the fund balance declines, because in addition to those numbers coming out of the fund balance, there was another $63.5 or so million that were used in non-recurring revenues in order to pay recurring expenses. There are, if we can put the slides back up, if we can go to slide 17, if we are actually 15, if we could.
Yes, sir. There you go, sir.
Okay. This slide is one of, and from our perspective, one of the three most important slides in the deck, because it speaks to concerns of the rating agencies. You have ratings from three agencies: Moody's, Fitch, and Standard & Poor's. And at some point in time, if you'd like a workshop on that, we can go into detail about their ratings and how they look at them. But at this point in time, two of those ratings are a negative outlook. We expect that a third might be, and we would not be surprised if we see rating declines coming. But basically what this says is that for a number of years, our revenues have been less than our expenditures. The way that the rating agencies have phrased it in their reports is that a persistent structural imbalance is what they call it. So that is a key concern of theirs. If we could go to slide 17. Gotcha. Actually, let's go to slide 19. It shows it a little better. So in here, I simply want to point out, as Mr. Davis and Dr. Kemp did so precisely, that at one point in time we had $361 million. There were monies in there that we did not expect to stay there. Nobody ever expected to have a $361 million fund balance in this administration or it to be there. The expectation was to try to get it to around that 230 to 250 number. It was trying to have about 60 days operating expenses on hand, and that was the goal. But once it started being drawn down, it went down a good bit below that, and you can see in 14-15 there where it went down to 146. That's the same point in time at which that other $63.5 million was used. So it would look a little bit more drastic had it not been for that money. One of the factors that Moody's calculates is a 5-year change in your cash balances. They do a backward look and say this is what has happened, and it's an indicator of your stability. And if you looked at Broward, Lee, Miami-Dade, Palm Beach, all of those would have shown increases over that 5-year period. If you look from 2019 back, Hillsborough's was a negative 6.1%. It would be the outlier among that group. So, you know, they deal with many of the same challenges we deal with, but they've been able to weather that a little bit more effectively. Let's go to slide 21, if we could, please. And then I want to make sure that everybody understands when the staff came to you back in October, 1st of November, and asked you to do a TAN, the comment we made was that it was there to offset the cash flow shortfall that occurred in that November timeframe. At the time that that information was presented to this board, this chart was not available, nor was the information on that orange line that went out to June 30th. That did not materialize until about mid-November. So your staff did not misrepresent you in any way. They did not hold back information from you. Part of this is due to the antiquated nature of your financial systems. And as I understand it, Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the ability to generate this information requires both automated and manual processes. You cannot generate a report out of your system that gets there. Steve Brady spends hours and hours over the last month and a half trying to compile this information to determine where you're going to be. So that is why you did not see this when you considered the TAN. And had it been there at that time, we would have handled that, you know, staff would have most likely handled that differently. So at the end of the day, we think that your current position, the challenges you're facing, while the rating agencies absolutely understand the challenges of charter schools, they've mentioned that, they understand that state support in Florida is different and far less robust than it is in a number of states around the country, that our fund balance requirements of a minimum of 3% are minuscule compared to what they consider acceptable for AA credits in that AA category, even oftentimes in the A category. State of Alabama even requires a fund balance in excess of 8%. They understand all those things, but they look at where you are in relationship with other districts that they rate, and they assign a rating based on how likely they think it is that you will remain financially stable and be able to pay your debt. I would say that there is no problem with repaying the TAN. It will be repaid shortly. Your COP payment that was due January 1 has been paid. Your COP payment that is due July 1 has already been set aside and sent to the trustee. So bondholders are in good shape there. There are no concerns there. But there are concerns at the rating agencies over the ongoing systematic structural imbalance.
Sir. I want to make sure we're on. Thank you, sir. And so overall, the coordinated effort has to be to look at school improvement funding and also look at our compression fund. We get a 0.748 in Mills compression, which is an equalizer to school districts. And if we ask the state to give us 125% of that compression fund, that would bring an additional $33 million to the school district. And I think we can galvanize with a bunch of other big districts and school districts throughout the state of Florida in order to move forward. And I'm going to release this to Ms. Gray at this time.
Yeah, I want to thank Superintendent Davis, Dr. Kemp, the finance staff, and Jerry Ford for the comprehensive report and the serious topics that each board member is considering with their questions and remarks. In an effort to engage our board members, I just want to remind each of them, and I saw you're all calculating, and I really appreciate you're paying such close attention, of course. So the effort will be to keep us at 3 minutes, each board member, and then if you want to speak again, you'll go back in the queue. Staff members, please be as brief as you can. And board members, remember also that finance staff is always on hand to answer questions if you do not get them resolved during this meeting. So I at first was going to put this in two halves, but because our time, and I'm going to try to keep us here till 12, just because I know that you have a lot of questions, we're going to go ahead and allow questions to span the entire document, which is 31 pages. So at any rate, first, let's go ahead and stand up and stretch, and up. Mr. Porter. All right. Yeah, you all need to move around a little bit because.
Both 365 points. I can't even connect that in my watch.
I know.
They're going to owe me a bunch of money.
On the line.
Oh.
And you may want to say that.
Okay.
Any board members, from the council.
Oh, Carlson.
Carlson.
Okay.
From the council of Great City Schools. I
Okay.
believe he's calling in from California.
Woo.
And
Okay.
so he's available for any questions about that particular audit.
The audit. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's great.
Because they made some significant recommendations.
You did. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to say something first.
That would
he
be
can
great
make
if
a
he's.
statement
I've got to
first.
go to the restroom after he goes, and then
we can open it up first.
we'll have Karen. But I have to go to the restroom after Karen. When Karen gets started, can you take?
Yeah.
It won't
Sure,
take me a
sure,
second. Okay. Yeah. All right. Time's up. I was going to have you all do sit-ups or push-ups, but Member Snively was going to deny me the pleasure. So, who's got to have a fall person? Just before we officially get started, which we will in about half a minute, we have Mr. Carlson from the Council of Great City Schools on the line. He's calling from Chicago, California. Starts with a C. California. So what I think, and I'm trying to figure out, Mr. Carlson, how is he on the line now, Mr. Porter, or how are we communicating with him? Dr. Kemp?
We have him virtually on the. They're going to bring him in. Excuse me. Oh, he stepped away.
Okay, well,
during your break.
Okay. He's doing his sit-ups, of course. I should have known. Well, Pablo, you'll let us know. And okay, at this time, And we are reminded 3 minutes, just so we all can get a good stab at some of those questions, and we'll go back in our queue. Member Perez?
Thank you, ma'am. So the CARES Act funding is going to be like 222 million to 240 million, correct?
We're forecasted to get around $216 million. We have to know that the state will do a percentage sweep, and I don't know if that's a 5 to 10% sweep that they'll take off the top for them. And then any money that we receive will have to be inclusive of us sharing that money with charter schools as well.
Okay. And when do you expect to receive this funding?
So my understanding is that Department of Education is being awarded the notification. Get the money in the next in the week, and hopefully we'll start seeing that money in the next few weeks. I don't know if anybody, Ms. Garcia, or we know anything else. Go ahead, Ms. Garcia.
They'll have to do a grant application. It'll have to go through that process.
So could that take 30 days?
I have no idea how long it'll take them. It's different every time.
Right, so my conversation with the Chancellor and Commissioner of Education at the end of last week, saying that the turnaround is going to be really, really fast. So that's a celebration, and I believe that to be true.
And nothing new. Florida has always hovered between 43 and 45 in ranking for many years. So what has been done to increase, beyond what the funding we received last year, to increase this per student allocation on a federal level?
You know what, we through the chair, we have worked with our state, our local, state, and our federal lobbyists to be able to generate funding, especially on the FEFP side of it. And we've had many conversations with the governor's office, many conversations with Tallahassee and our lobbyists to be able to increase that in local legislation. And openly, we see that there has been an increase from the last couple of years. It's been a slight increase, but it is an increase. And as you look at next year, the next year is projected to be an additional $10 for every student for the basic student allocation. Openly, I think last year was more than $40+ we got on the BSA. The $10 is not going to have a significant impact in Hillsborough County, and we've just got to really make it a priority to be able to push to ask for additional funding.
And have we received any reimbursement from Generate? And how much?
From Generate Capital? I'll have to get the answer. I'll have to get that from Mr. Farkas to be able to see. I know that there's some energy efficiency savings. I think there was a question of whether or not we couldn't all attach that to Generate Capital during the closing of COVID. But I do believe it's around, I'll let Mr. Farkas come say, it's a couple $1 million a month that we actually are through our savings. And I'll let Mr. Farkas kind of walk us through that. I don't want to say anything inaccurate.
Certainly, as we referenced, there's about almost $5 million on the TICO bill that was less. Again, it's hard to differentiate whether that was from COVID-related expenses and not having school or the LED light retrofits and the things they've done. They prepaid us just under $4 million in savings so far that'll go forward. Each project has prepaid savings. So they've given us about $4 million, and then we also have about $5 million in savings. But again, we can't say that's mutually exclusive of just Generate.
Thank you, Member Perez. Great questions. Member Combs?
First of all, thank you so much, Dr. Kemp and Superintendent Davis, for giving us such a detailed workshop, all this information. My question is how much did we initially get from the CARES Act and for that initial amount, and did we receive it yet?
Yes, ma'am. We've received installments of that, and we get up to around between $54 and $60 million that we received. We've unpacked all of those allocations, and we're still continuing to do refinements and amendments to be able to alleviate some of our general fund to be able to have greater cash on hand. And we've used that to address any additional, like we use that through Canvas, we use that through Achieve, being able to strengthen iReady. We use that for PPE, all of those types of initiatives to be able to further support. We used a lot of it to be able to address the digital divide. We've ordered over 50,000 plus devices within that CARES Act and or within ESSER, and we are continuing to identify other areas that we can potentially amend to further to support us from a general fund perspective.
Okay, and also, I mean, coming in as a new school board member, I just want to say, what are some of the thoughts that I have looking at all of this and some of the things I know we're going to have to make very difficult decisions in this district. I realize that, but I do want to give some perspective. I believe, first of all, the FTE that we're allocating, that should be our number one legislative purpose, is really asking for more money. And I feel like that should be the number one priority. Number two, that we don't talk about very much is this coming year alone, $250 million will be going to charter schools, which I believe in parent choice, but we also have to look at only 23% of those are considered highly effective. So I think that is something that we really need to discuss in this district and talk about a little bit more. Third is the grants, the Gates Foundation, and I know you talked about the grants. Let's talk about each one individually and how that has affected our district. Also, I know we're going to have to make very difficult decisions with class sizes and programs and allowing the principals to make those decisions and looking at the programs and seeing what they want to save and not save. And finally, the district administration. We've talked about the cuts that we've had, and through my research, I have seen that in November of 2019, we had 298 personnel. December of 2020, there are 301. So we actually have not really cut the district personnel. And as I've seen USF and other organizations take a percentage, cut a percentage. You talked about cutting 4 days possibly, but that would be one of the main things that you would save. Looking at collectively, how are you going to think about that and consider that?
So through the chair, I appreciate the fight to be able to go to Tallahassee and ask for more BSA and FTE money. I do agree that we can look at charter's overall impact and determine how that why are we losing particular students? Why? And I'm all about choice, but I think that we ought to protect our district managed schools, and then being able to look at past grants, we can unpack it. But as it relates to looking at some similar models of what other upper level institutions have done, from our perspective, I think that we need to address it from an equitable perspective. I'm not going to ask any subset of leaders or teachers or support staff to take a pay decrease. We will do it in a way that's in an equitable manner. We'll do it by 12-month employees, 11-month employees, and 10-month employees, and we'll do it at that particular stage. And I think that's just an equitable way to do it. I said it before. I think that when we make an agreement financially to our employees who are significantly underpaid, regardless of where they are, and we looked at comparative leadership analysis between state of Florida, looking at throughout the nation, I think we should stay and remain our commitment. So being able to look at big pockets, 12-month, 11-month, and 10-month, I'm committed to doing that in an equitable manner. But I do appreciate the conversation.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis, and I appreciate those questions. We all do, Member Combs. So we're going to go ahead right now to Member Washington. Oh, sorry. Oh, Member Vaughn. Member Hahn. I should, you know what? I remembered Hahn, and then it's Vaughn, or vice versa. Member Hahn, good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
But we can't see you.
But we can't see you.
Sorry, I can see you.
Oh.
I see you.
Oh.
Well, that's
Wait a minute.
okay.
Maybe she's
As long
on
as you
hold.
can hear me. So first, I just quickly want to say that I apologize that I'm not there in person today. My 11-year-old son is in quarantine. He was exposed at school to COVID, and we are in that timeline of quarantine where we are not, I'm sorry, we're asymptomatic. I'm getting feedback on my mic. So to be responsible and respectful to the people in the boardroom and my school board colleagues, I felt it was most responsible to meet with you virtually this morning. So I appreciate all the good wishes of the last few days, and my questions are as follows. There's been a few comments already about the CARES Act. Dr. Kemp, just to clarify, that money has to specifically be spent on COVID-related expenses, correct?
That's correct. We have to trace that money back to qualified and eligible expenses for the pandemic or pandemic-related issues.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned that we spend about $123 million a month on salaries, correct?
Our payroll is $68 million every 2 weeks. That's just $136 million a month in active payroll.
Okay, so I just want to clarify that the CARES Act money has to be spent on COVID-related expenses, and even if it wasn't, it would probably get us through a little more than a month of expenditures. Can we go to slide 12?
Yes,
you mentioned on this slide that 87% of our dollars are spent on salaries and benefits. What is the typical percentage spent on those expenditures for districts our size?
Through the chair, I'll have to go and look at what surrounding counties or our size are, but overall practice has been around 83%. And I know you may not think that's a significant percentage between 82, 83, and 87, but it is. It's a lot of money. And that just allows you to have, as I said earlier, to have that balance of what you put on the classroom and what you put in the classroom as well. But we can get that information.
Thank you. I would appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
And then on slide 21, you mentioned this was a telling slide where we are anticipating what our property tax money will be. If that money comes in less than we have anticipated, what does that mean? Does that mean that, in fact, we will not be able to possibly make payroll even before the summer?
Through the chair, yes, ma'am. It would definitely impact us financially, and the gap would widen. And you may see the May downward spiral would start to become to April. And because April, I believe, is the last time availability to be able to pay or receive money from a local perspective, but yet it just would be accelerated related to our cash on hand issue. Anything?
And the strategies on page 26, how many months would that actually, those short-term strategies, how many months would that actually get us through financially?
Through the chair, that only gets us to June 30th through July 1. And that would be a Band-Aid. And then July 1, we would have to make staffing, my time's up. We'd have to make staff and allocation changes at the district level, support staff and teacher level, going into July 1 to be able to meet the systemic change in the threshold financially.
And thank you, Member Hahn. It's so good to see you.
Thank you.
We'll put you back in the queue.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yes, we wanted to know if the dog is in your lap this morning, but
no, he's asleep in his bed.
Okay. Member Vaughn.
Thank you. And thank you for the presentation. I have a couple questions. Some of them go in line with my previous board member questions. I appreciate that we're highlighting that a lot of this is the fact that we're underfunded by the state. But there's been, and to Nadia and Ms. Combs' point, is that charter schools need to be a larger factor into this conversation. As she mentioned, $250 million is one of the amounts that has been highlighted that has been taken out of our district when we're talking about it. And it looks like for 2022, there's 11 more slated to open that are just looking for locations. And we're anticipating 10 applications alone. So we could be looking at up to 20, 25 additional charter schools in the year of 2022, which at the capacity of 350 students, which is the minimum, could take $60 million out of our 2022 budget. So when we're talking about just having these hard conversations for now, it doesn't address upcoming the money that the charter schools are going to be taking out of our district. So I want to make sure we're including that in the conversation. As well as to Ms. Hahn's point, when we go into our budget meeting later today, we're going to pass some things, and I want to make clear to people who don't necessarily understand that we're talking about our general fund here right now, that there are other categorials that the state does allot us money for, and that we have to spend strictly in those areas that don't affect our general fund. So when we're passing other things, they don't necessarily directly go to our general fund, and that there are all sorts of guidelines from the states on what money we have, how we can spend it, whether we have to hire consultants as part of it, as part of the grant. So I want people to be aware of that. As well as I'd like to know the timeline for these kind of staff reductions. I think that there's a lot of concern that they might be done now, and that if we can do them over the summer, that would have a different effect on the rest of our school year. And then I'd also, and just one last thing, I know I'm asking you a lot, is I'd like to invite our teachers union, CTA, to maybe have 3 minutes and just kind of respond to some of this, and so we can hear their viewpoints on some of the information we've presented. So as a board, we can collectively, make these decisions with engaging their voice into the conversation. And I do have some more questions, but I'll get back in the queue for that.
Yes, Mr. the Chair, definitely. We'll do an analysis and provide you how much pass-through money we have related to charter schools to give you a holistic number related to that to validate the 250, and then also the number of current charter schools that we have and the forecastability, we talked about a little bit last night, and then look at the overall impact for FTE per students. And as it relates to the timing of this, we won't do anything related to reduction in staff until the summer. I think it's proper for us to be able to leverage the CARES Act 2 money to get us to the end of the year. But we will start planning for that process in February, March, and April to be able to properly inform employees to let them know their current status. If we do have available money coming with any additional grant money that we receive, and we will continue to go after grant money that is not matching, that we will inform anyone that if we can put them on grant funding, and let them know that they can go on a grant dollar, but they will be informed that of the duration of that grant, knowing that after 1 or 2 years they projectively will not be picked up through general fund if we do not have the funding at that particular time.
Thank you, Member Vaughn and Superintendent Davis. Member Washington.
First of all, thank you, Superintendent Davis and Dr. Kemp, for that presentation. Some of the things I would like to see, and you kind of hit on it a little bit, Sue, when we were talking about transformation schools. It's important to maintain those transformation schools.
Yes, sir.
Because even though, we're in a crunch, but students are really important to be successful in life. So we want to continue to protect those teachers as much as we can in those transformation schools.
Yes, sir.
Number two, I've been around for a long time, and what I don't want to happen is we make all these cuts and we do the things we have to do, then we come back in the next 2 years, we got to do something else. So if we're going to make it right now, let's make it right all the way through the years to come, because we don't want to keep coming back year after year making cuts. I think that's very important.
Yes, sir.
And something else I think is important when we go out to give units to the principals. Something you said was very important. They need to defend those units and why you're using those units, because we don't want to give you no units because we like you. We need to give you units because it's important for your school to have those units so they can be successful. And that's all I have to say, and thank you. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it, sir. And we will continue to protect transformation, and in there we'll work with principals and also CTA in that process.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Member Washington. And now we're going to go to Member Snively.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to thank you, Superintendent, and your leadership team for a very comprehensive financial report today at the workshop. I don't know that it has ever been made so clear to the board until today how serious our financial situation is. I have learned more in the last 2 weeks than I've probably learned in the last 6 years as a board member, and I really appreciate the time and the candor that you have had in being very upfront about our situation. So thank you for doing that. And some things have already been said. I agree that state funding is definitely something we need to continue to focus on. We need to be with laser strategy when we see our legislators. I think we go every year and we ask for additional funding, but I don't know that the strategies that we have used in the past, obviously they're not working, and we need to figure out a different strategy. And for example, if you take the analogy of looking at our finances as a business owner, if you look back to our funding levels in 2010, 10 years ago, if you were to tell me as a business owner that I was going to have to operate my business today with the same revenue that I was receiving 10 years ago, I wouldn't be able to operate my business at the same level of professionalism and expertise that I can today because of inflation, because of the CPI. And so maybe we take a different look at that. Now, with that said, we also have to be realistic because of the time that we're in, and we know that there are going to be budgetary constraints and cutbacks at the state level. We have to be very realistic that we may be able to have the best argument for that, but they just may not be able to do it for us. Right? So that's a long-term solution, as is charter schools. We can talk about charter schools all day long. We have very little control about charter schools, and there are some positives about charter schools that we're not talking about, like the fact that they help us with capacity issues in the parts of the county that we can't get buildings up fast enough for our students. Right? So, but that's also a long-term solution because we have very little control of. What we do need to focus on are the short-term solutions that are sustainable. You've presented some today. I hope that we can continue the conversation of some of those quick short-term solutions that will have the biggest impact, but that are also sustainable for our school district. I agree. We want to focus on district administration. Ms. Combs mentioned it earlier. The last place we want to look is the classroom because those are the people that are impacting our students on a day-to-day basis. So to me, it's, everything else first until we have to get to the classroom. And I'll wrap up 2 seconds. Teachers impact students the most. We're going to have to address parent concerns about class sizes and cuts in programming or reduction in programming or changes in programming, or however you want to look at that. And I hope that the board has the fortitude to support what you are trying to accomplish for this school district. You're going to need all of us behind you, and we'll have to work as a team to really get this done and to help our community understand that these are difficult decisions that we're going to have to make, but we can make them together, and we can do this together for the betterment of our school district and for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Snively, and I also appreciate those remarks made by the board members. And I also want to say I want to say the word impressed, but I'm just real thankful that they have studied and have done the due diligence in really looking at our fiscal reality. I also have worked with other superintendents in the years as a Shake Washington, Member Washington, and we are reminded, both Member Washington and I, of budget shortfalls, and various superintendents will do things to make sure that the district stays afloat. And in fact, everything from the Gates Grant was one. And now, though, when you came aboard, Superintendent Davis, Dr. Kemp, you also faced not only a deficit and lack of sustainability, but you faced the COVID. And I'm not one to use excuses, make excuses, it's because of the COVID. But in fact, a lot of the money was pouring out from that, and that we don't get the money back. There's not a revenue stream, so to speak, except for what's coming down, hopefully, with the CARES 2. My point is also in line with Member Snively, instruction at all costs, the fidelity of our instruction should be a number one priority. I appreciate, Dr. Kemp, the $80 million, and we're spending $86 million. But I also have to say, to me, the welfare of our children and the quality of instruction, I will always, as a board member, that will be my most emphatic point. Looking forward towards a solution, writing down the additional revenue needs. We don't have many options. I don't know whether we mentioned a property referendum, but I would like for us to, and this was mentioned, shared with you, Superintendent Davis, of a task force, a coalition of stakeholders. In 2018, I know I pounded about the referendum for, our schools, air conditioning, et cetera, and we were successful. Well, now I'm going to also be emphatic that it's time for us to get a coalition together of our delegation, our Hillsborough delegation, political leadership, and also our HEF, our business partners. And they are, and we all know this, they want their children, their grandchildren, our city of Tampa, and outlying Southeast County, they want what is right for our children. So we know that if we start now involving them as a potential additional revenue source, I think it's high time, and I know you all know this, we have to look for that to sustain this district. So, and this is my answer, a part of the answer, and my time is up. If you would like to remark on that, Superintendent Davis?
Yes, ma'am, I think you're spot on. I had a conversation a couple of days ago with, maybe last Friday night, and when everybody's hanging out, me and Miss Baxter Jenkins are trying to strategize about what we can do from a summer perspective of figuring out what we can do to start educating our community about a potential additional revenue stream. You see that many counties across the state have to be able to go and link and find additional revenue streams just to stay afloat and to openly incentivize and protect the classrooms. And I think that we stand prepared, and we look forward to potentially having greater conversations about it.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Davis. And now we're going to move. We're back in number 2Q. This is our second round. Member Perez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When you're saying identify and create a revenue stream, once the new administration is in place, they're looking to complete another stimulus package. Is that going to affect us as well?
So I would say that the CARES Act 2 would be the additional revenue stream to be able to use that and leverage that $100 million to further support, where we are financially to get us to the end of June 30th to truly compensate all of our employees and be able to use that to remove any potential furlough days, especially for teachers. Teachers would be the first priority. If there's a need to have additional furlough days, and we will be 12-month employees first. That's inclusive of the executive team and myself, and to be able to protect our contract with Spark. So I think that we would leverage that as much and often as we could to be able to use it.
Perfect. And have you thought about, well, I know we spoke prior as a board in the Sunshine regarding selling properties and the possibility of renting out our spaces for events?
Yes, ma'am. To the chair, there's definitely opportunities there. We do have properties that we could potentially sell. We've had conversations with my team members about that. One thing is that it's a Band-Aid. But, however, we're still looking at potential surplus of being able to look at historical or looking at futuristic growth within our school district. So we're identifying any plat that we potentially have to see if we're, not going to be able to prove to use it, to leverage it, to potentially build or expand. And if we don't need it, then being able to turnkey that and be able to sell it as surplus to generate funding back. The issue is that funding is going to come to a capital funding, capital outlay money, and for us to be able to use it, we would then once again have to transfer that from capital funding to be able to use it for general. We can do it; it's a legal process, but just knowing that that's a practice that we would have to acknowledge openly.
Thank you. And then my last question is Medicaid billing has always been an issue in this district, a major issue. How can we promote the increase of professionals billing for their services rendered, and how can and how much do you think that Medicaid funding would assist this district?
So through the chair, there's a lot of opportunity for us to go after Medicaid funding. We just got to have the system supports in place in order to do it. So I'll let Tracy speak to it about where we are and what we can do. But that's definitely a conversation we're having with our team members through Tracy Brown and her shop, and also Dr. Vera Tirado as well.
Yes, thank you, Superintendent, Board. We are absolutely working along with Dr. Vera Tirado on trying to ensure that our staff is actually reporting everything that they do. I think we underreport. We don't always capture everything that we do that we can be reimbursed for, and we're working on improving that process, and we will provide you with an update on that as we continue to work through that.
Is there going to be any training provided to our professionals? Because I believe that part of this whole issue is the lack of training that they have in understanding, first of all, the importance of our Medicaid dollars to this district, and second, how to complete that billing for their services rendered in order for it to effectively bring back some reimbursement to this district.
Yes, ma'am, there will be training not only about the importance, but also what are those things that they're doing that are billable. So we will continue to work on ensuring that our staff understands, and particularly understands, the importance of capturing all of that information.
I think it's a great point related to a strategy for us to look at to be able to bring some general revenue in. I'll get a plan together.
And I agree. Good question, Member Perez. Member Combs?
Have we thought about the millage and how we're going to go about doing that? Is that a possibility, and what would that look like?
Yes, ma'am, to the chair. So, as a part of conversation, I believe was in December about potential strategy, and because we were just trying to figure out additional revenue streams. When looking at that, historically, school districts were allowed to go and put it on to do a special referendum, but that has changed in the last 6 months to a year. Any type of additional revenue stream would have to go to a general, which would be the next one would be in 2022. And then in that process, we'd have to link with a number of community members, business partners, and organizations to raise, external funding to be able to market and to educate. And that's going to take a boots on the ground campaign to be able to educate in our community about the overall need. I think openly, if this is the process steps we would go through, and I would use that money to protect positions in our schools and to properly incentivize teachers, we'd have to articulate that plan to our community, but also validate what we are doing with our half-cent community sales tax to show how that oversight committee is using and leveraging that funding, and we're doing it in an efficient manner.
And I guess go ahead.
Yes, ma'am, through the chair. I wanted to say that it's very important to realize, and I know you guys know this on the board, but the community needs to know that we're student rich and property poor. So from an equity perspective, when you think about surrounding counties, the revenues that we receive, it's just not comparable. So at some point, when we're reliable and efficient, and we're doing a great job with half-cent sales tax now with the capital campaign, I do at some point think we need to maximize millage funding for our community to support. We do not benefit from the property of some of the surrounding counties. We do not benefit from they also have half-cent sales taxes just for operations. Some have sales taxes just for teacher salaries. I think we need to start looking at all of that if we're going to be competitive and relevant in the future.
And then the next is a question and a comment. We've discussed, we want to do as much as we can to protect the teachers and our supporting staff. And we talked about, significantly our instructional leadership team. It has increased. The revenue has cost more. And I, as a business person, I believe in paying people what they're going to, what they're worth. And I think that if everybody is going to be sacrificing, if we're asking teachers to have more students in a class, if we're asking counselors to deal with more students, if we're asking principals to deal with more children, I think it should be collectively, everybody should be able to, and you said that, your instructional team, you didn't feel like there should be a cut. What about this assistant principals who are going to be placed back into the classroom? And how many assistant principals are you looking at, and what percentage decrease are they going to take?
Yes, through the chair, we will run that final analysis. We had an initial analysis, and we've asked our chief of schools and also our chief of transformation to review that as well, to look at the allocation plan, and we'll make certain. I have a number in my head. I don't want to make sure I give you inaccurate, so I'll email that to board on my follow-up. But openly, anybody that's removed from an administrative position due to overages will have to be able to transition back to a position of support with our instructional position, which there could be a decrease decrease in salary overall. And I understand it's difficult to do. It's difficult to be able to manage, and it's unattractive. But at the end of the day, you know, when you have some schools have 6, 7, 8 administrators on site, and I think that's a lot.
Well, I think we have to remember. Sorry. I think we also have to remember that if they're going to take those cuts and they're school-based, right, and they're going to take a percentage cut, we need to make sure the community knows that. So it's not always just the school base that's receiving those percentage cuts that we're talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Member Vaughn. Thank you, Superintendent Combs. Sorry, I'm getting ready for the Han Vaughn. Okay, Member Han is next.
Thank you, Member Gray. So, Dr. Kemp, on page, you don't need to show the slide, but what would the timing need to be in regard to the realignment of positions for it to have the financial impact that we would need?
Okay, so when you look at the timing, the spring timeline, the chief of schools will meet with school, each school to look at school-based, as well as we'll be doing a complete review of the district. Because we're an active payroll-based organization, let's say there's 2,000 students or 2,000 positions that are being cut. That would be approximately $148 million. It'd be great if we could, if we just say we had 148 million the day that we make the decisions to reduce the 2,000. It doesn't work that way. We don't get the 148 million until we go through one full year of not paying the active payroll. So that's one of the reasons why we're not making any changes during the school year, because it's simply the enemy was time, and we would not be able to capture the benefit from attrition or any types of salaries from there. But it takes a full year to recover the active payroll cycle.
So the stimulus dollars and any other short-term strategies, such as selling real estate or any of those types of strategies, would just really get us through the year until we started seeing the financial payback for the reallocation.
Yes, ma'am, that's absolutely correct.
Okay, so I'm trying to get the timing right in my head and understand how we're going to get from today to a year from now and still be able to pay all of our employees, because I firmly believe there are solutions that will protect our classrooms and our schools, but I do feel that this board is going to have to support our superintendent and his staff around some very tough decisions for the end result to be that this district once again becomes financially healthy. So that's the end goal. So I appreciate the clarification and the information. Thank you.
And thank you, Member Han, for always reminding us of the timeline. The more we say it when things are due, the more that it will be in our brains that everything is fairly urgent. And I appreciate that. Member Vaughn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In my previous question, I had requested that CTA be able to speak. I know that it's not precedented that we have public comment, but we had Dr. Ford, and I appreciate that. And they are the voice of our teachers, and I think that they need to be included in this conversation, and I'd like to hear what they have to say. As 1/7 of this board, that's my request. So I'd like to yield the rest of my time and ask them to come and give their feedback to what we've presented thus far.
Attorney Porter, is there any problems with that?
So, Madam Chair, that's completely up to the chair to decide. I'll remind the board that typically at workshops there are a couple of protocols that you follow. You don't vote because you're receiving information and doing a work presentation, and you don't take public comment. You have the power to waive that if you wish at the request of a board member, but that's a call that the chair has to make. But the precedent has been to not allow public comment. Mr. Ford is part of the superintendent's team. He's a contractor for the district and was part of the presentation as a council of Great City Schools, but that's up to you, Ms. Gray.
No, I think, whenever we deviate from the way of work, we set a precedent, and I'm almost certain that Stephanie Baxter Jenkins and Rob Crete, you'll be speaking this evening, I hope. And you know where our hearts are. We're all sharing with you the concern for instruction. You know that, and hopefully that message has been resounded over and over again, as through our superintendent and Dr. Kemp. So, and thank you, Member Vaughn, for yielding your time to them. Would you like to go ahead? I think you still have some time to
Yes.
continue.
Yeah, can you hear me? I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have further comments about this decision later. But in regards to the conversation that we're having now, I appreciate that in the PowerPoint we were comparing ourselves to other counties. And in that comparison, we looked at their staffing size compared to ours, and we also talked about how many achievement schools they have in comparison to ours. And the way that it was presented was to say that, you know, people don't necessarily equate to the success of the schools. But what I find is the way that I process that information is that our district is drastically different than their districts, and that we might be comparable in size as far as how many students we have, but we're not actually holistically looking at our needs as a district, our challenges, socioeconomic, whatever it is as far as supporting our students. And when I see the number of achievement schools, what it really makes me do is realize how different we are in scope. And so my concerns going forward is what I'd like to do is keep a good record and maybe have some documentation of, as we make these cuts, how they affect our academic output. Because I think part of the conversation is whether we're overstaffed or underfunded. And I think our staffing should reflect the academic success of our students, and that the academic success of our students shouldn't be confined to underfunding. So I want to make sure as we make these cuts and as we go forward, it's in a very thoughtful way that we're making sure that it's not affecting our academic output. And if it is, then we need to readdress how we're being staffed and what our staffing needs are. So that was my thoughts. Thank you.
To the chair, I think that's fair.
Thank you, Member Vaughn and Member Snively. And following Member Snively, Member Washington, because you only spoke once, you get to go.
If you want to.
If you want to, right before me. Okay. Member Snively?
Well, and thank you, Madam Chair. And just kind of to dovetail off of what Ms. Vaughn just mentioned, which is a very poignant piece of information, is, you know, what is that number? Because we don't want, you know, the last thing we want to do is reduce our instructional staffing, right? Because we know that that's going to impact our children, our students. It could impact, we hope not, but it could impact their academic success, and that's the last thing that we want it to impact. However, what we need, the tool that we need in our toolbox, I think, is what is the number that we need to take to our legislators to say, if we wanted to keep everything the same right now so that we can have the resources that we believe that we need for our school district, what is that number? Because I haven't seen that number, nor has and I know that Mr. Kemp is working on that number because I've asked him for that number. But, you know, that's what they want to know. That's what the legislature wants to know. What is that number? It can't just be more funding, more funding, more funding. We have to be able to give them some very specific, detailed information and back it up with why we need that particular amount.
So yes, ma'am, Ms. Snively, your question that you asked yesterday regarding how much additional per pupil funding would we need on the BSA to be able to maintain the current staffing. So I asked our finance team to run that, and I'm going to ask Susie Garcia to answer.
So I apologize. I sent the email, but it was kind of late. So if we are talking about the base student allocation, in order for it to cover the total payroll, and I use 1920 numbers because it was a complete year, it would be about $7,400 plus dollars.
Okay.
Not to be confused with the total funds per unweighted FTE, because the numbers almost sound similar, but we're talking about that.
Do you have that number as well? How that translates to the FEFP?
I don't have I didn't go that far.
That's okay. I didn't ask you for that, but let's work on that. I guess my point is we need to be very specific in what we ask for, and we need to be able to back up why we need those dollars so that they're not impacting the academic success of our students. And then the only other thing I wanted to say too was there are some short-term things. I agree with Ms. Perez about, you know, our buildings. I hate to consolidate schools, but that might be necessary with this downtown building. With COVID, we have realized there are many different ways to work. There are some positions that can work from home. In fact, probably the majority of the positions in our district administration could be work from home type positions. I closed my office, my business, for 10 weeks. I shut the front door, and my entire team worked from home for 10 weeks, and we didn't skip a beat. In fact, we were more productive than we ever had been before working from home. So that, I think, could be a consideration when it comes to streamlining and with technology, because we have to start leveraging that as well. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Member Snively. Member Washington?
Quick question. It should be simple, Superintendent. So we have properties, right? Are we planning on selling those properties?
We're in the process of gathering every surplus property. We're going around and having growth and development division to be able to look at the projectability, where we may need facilities and where we may, our future land and where we may not, and then coordinate that with the county for potential permission to build in the years to come. Where we see that we may not be using or haven't used a facility or a plat, we'll be able to look and bring the board for a potential sale.
Okay, thank you, Member Washington. I just wanted to ask 3 questions. Have we considered, and I don't remember seeing it, the restructuring of our organization? Let me give you an example. So if we look at Magnet, which was in the fiscal writings, and then we look at charter schools, can we not restructure, say, have it under choice? You know, I think the bigger question is, have we looked at restructuring?
Yes, Mr. the Chair. Every year we will go through restructuring and reorganization overall to meet our needs. We will validate things that where we have the greatest impact and keep them, but we will also continue to alter and adjust. We do believe there will be some adjustments in moving forward for the 21-22 school year. And as we get to the April-May scenario, we'll be able to present that to the board to show alignment and to show efficiency. But absolutely, we'll continue to look and refine, and especially at this time where we may have to make some really hard decisions at ROSAC as well. Well, those may be able to, those will be presented to the board.
Well, thank you. Also, not to beat a dead horse, but there is not only what Member Snively and Member Washington said about selling the building, finding the monies for the properties that we have. It's more emblematic that we look at selling this building and going, say, to an abandoned, soon-to-be abandoned school building or ISC. And I think that's worth looking at. Plus, it's emblematic because it shows that we, as a board and as a superintendent, are willing to give. We're willing to dig deep in our pockets. And the community needs to see that in various ways, because we're going to be asking them to give. So I think it works both ways, and I think that's just an idea that we might want to pursue.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we definitely are in line with that philosophy. Any property or anything that we sell will protect teachers. We use all that money dedicated to protect initiatives, programs, and first teachers within our schools who are in front of children every day.
And thank you for that. And again, the last one I have, Jerry Ford, if you will answer, when we talk about credit ratings and we have a lower one, is that analogy with a lower credit rating? Do the interest rates, in other words, will we pay more for our interest rates on various purchases? No?
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn.
Thank you.
Ms. Gray. The answer is, first and foremost, your decision should not be done for the rating agencies, right? The rating agencies reflect their view of the quality of your management, the stability of your finances, and they broadcast that to the market in your community. The fact of the matter is, at this point in time, your ratings aren't low, but they're trending lower. If they go down further, any new debt that you issue will cost you more. Also, the impact will be that any existing holders of your debt will end up losing value in their investments.
Okay. Yeah. So we're really emphasizing the severity of what's going on. Thank you, Mr. Ford, and I yield. Well, my time is up, so I'm going to go right now to Member Perez.
Thank you, Member Gray. So, to Member Combs' comments, how will a rollback rate on property tax or millage affect revenue?
I'll look to the financial team. Rollback.
How will rollback rate on property tax on the millage affect that?
It depends on the millage rate that we levy. So as long as we have to advertise it if our millage rates are going to be higher than the previous year's rollback rate, we have to advertise it as an increase in property tax millage. I don't know if that answered your question, but.
And is the district as a whole going to request that legislation or the legislators repeal this?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, we're looking to find any additional revenue streams we can. I think that openly that we ought to make it not only a concentration to Mrs. Snively and everyone's point, Mrs. Vaughn and everyone else's point related to asking for additional money, be able to have that actual ask for us as a school district. But I think we ought to really look at the compression funding, to be able to look at the overall 7.748 mills compression, to be able to ask for additional money to 125%, that bring $33 million. And I think we ought to be able to look at local millage rate, local property from 1.5 to 2.0 as well. I don't know if it'll happen, but I think it's worth the conversation.
And I have one more request, if you don't mind. We have a lot of deaf who watch and are part of our district, and do watch the board meetings. A lot of our deaf may or may not be able to read.
Yes, ma'am.
So even with closed captioning, so they do lip read. However, so when we're responding with a mask, our deaf are losing out on the responses that we're providing. So if we could, when we respond, remove our mask in order for our deaf audience to be able to read our lips. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Perez. Member Snively?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to concur with Member Gray. Even though I feel like we are your task force, it doesn't hurt. We have so many resources and so many people in the community that are willing to help us that you can lean on for support. I think that's a smart idea. And thank you for asking the question about the rating agencies and what the outlook is when it comes to that. So I will say that I know there's talk, and I know nothing's off the table at this point, but just personally, I don't believe that we can ask our citizens for another tax increase. I'm just going to put it out there. We've already asked them for that. We are in the middle of a global pandemic. People are struggling to make to pay their bills, to make their mortgage payments. Doing that is going to impact the cost of living in our area, and I think we need to get our own house in order and show that our citizens, we've done everything that we could possibly do first before, and we have to also make sure that we are establishing trust and credibility with our citizens before we can go out and ask them for more money. I'm not saying that it's not needed, because I would love to be able to pay our teachers more for what they do. However, I think we need to be realistic again in what we are considering, and I just cannot support an increase in taxes at this time, at this juncture, with the economy like it is right now. So just wanted to put that out there. The other thing is, Ms. Combs brought this up a little earlier about addressing the parent and community concerns about the reductions in staffing and the course offerings. I think at the end of the day, we're having some high-level conversations here, but as a parent on the other end, in the trenches with their students at the schools, and you don't have to answer this now, but as far as consideration of a communication plan, what are you going to tell me as a parent that is going to get buy-in on why my child may have to give up a class or a course offering, or why my child may have to sit in a classroom that has more students in it than normal? So I just want to plant that seed, because that's going to be a big concern for parents and community members, because that's what they're going to see on a day-to-day basis. That's what they're going to hear when their children come home from school and tell them, "Mommy, Mr. So-and-so can't offer this class anymore," or "Mommy, Mr. So-and-so's class got really big, and now I have to, share with more kids in my class and less resources to have. So those are the things I think that parents are going to hear from their teachers, from their students, from their administrators, and we're really going to have to figure out a way to strategically address that so that we can instill some confidence in parents that they're not going to lose the quality of education for their student, and we're still going to be the first and best choice, public education, traditional public education, first and best choice for our students.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Member Snively. Well said. Member Combs?
First of all, I want to thank the Finance Committee again for spending so much time with me yesterday. I have a question for you specifically, Dr. Kemp. Mrs. Binder, had this really great spreadsheet that really showed the numbers and what it should look like, and it was interactive. And so I'm curious, do the principals have that spreadsheet? And are we looking at the numbers day by day? Because those numbers are changing every day. So when you say sometimes we're overstaffed, I know that at one school that I was visiting last week, they had 30 kids show up. So I'm just curious, is that available to the principals now? Are they able to see it, feel it, look at the numbers, and also just see how those numbers are changing on a day-to-day basis?
First of all, yes, ma'am. It's a great tool that we use in the allocation process. And as the chief of schools, Kim Bays, and her team starts to work with principals in February, principals will have access to the model. And it's just a model that we start with, and then as Mr. Washington indicated, that principals have an opportunity to come back and meet with the regional superintendents to talk about their specific program needs. And it's basically the model's just a start, and then there's conversations that take place based on support that's needed from that point on. And Ms. Bays and her regional superintendents and directors, and Ms. McCray take care of those issues.
So through the chair, we look at class size every
yes,
day,
every day.
single day, and where there's needed to be able to generate another potential position, we will work through the chief, the regional superintendent, and Ms. McCray as well, to be able to determine where we need to either particular transfer or be able to potentially add to make certain that we're cognitive of where we are.
And it's always updated to active and current enrollment based on what the schools are experiencing at that time and projections ahead of time.
So Superintendent Davis, or do they actually have that spreadsheet right now that they're working with, or is that coming in the near future?
So through the chair, right now that will be, they received it, I think, back in the fall, but they will have it when we get to February. We're in the process of refining it to make sure it's right, to make sure that everything that we can be pro school and along the way. So they will have that start in the beginning of February, and that's going to start the conversations that we'll have with master schedule reviews, being able to determine what they actually need, looking at a 3 or 4 year projectability of historical trend of their enrollment, understanding that this year will be particularly suspended with their enrollment, but being able to look at prior years so that we don't have to cut teachers or support staff or leaders and then turn around and add them. That doesn't make any sense to us. So we'd rather front load them on the front side and let them get through the 10 to 20 day count to be able to make those decisions to help them make sure they can staff properly. Because one thing we want schools to do, we want them to be able to hire during the starting in March all the way to the summer, and being able to get highly qualified, skilled candidates versus trying to say, hey, guess what? We give you additional positions. We cut, but give you additional positions after the 20-day count. And then here they are. The talent pool may be low because it's drained through the Tampa Bay regional area.
And my final question is, does the administration now, the school-based principals, are they aware of the formula that you're looking at with assistant principals? Because we really need to give them as much notice as possible that people's lives may change significantly.
Through the chair, that was given to them in the fall, and when we started those conversations about where we were potential overages. So that'll be part of the greater conversation in February, and we'll try to protect everyone that we can, teachers being first.
Thank you, Member Combs, and very important point, too, for principals and anyone to be prepared for a budgetary shift. I'm just going to speak real brief because I think we're going to get into our final comments. And on the charter schools, I will say that we are reminded that we have some excellent charter schools, and I agree that they do serve a need in various areas, but we can't disagree. I mean, we have to realize that application fees in itself cost us money. For example, in 2016, about $2 million. 2020, we're up to $4 million of application fees. And this adds up. And so we do have to start, and we will have a workshop, board members, on charter schools, and I will look forward to it. So we know that the sustainability of our district has to have that ingredient to be known, because there's a lot of money coming out in that regard from the charter school from our loss of FTE. But this means when Member Snively says about the integrity of our curriculum and our course offerings, if we're going to be competitive, we darn well have to be right up there with our selective course, the arts. Those things are what drives the students to our schools. So you don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul. And so it is a definite conversation to have. And Superintendent Davis, just dive in. I don't have many other comments after this. Would you like to remark on that?
I don't disagree. We got to protect our programs that thrive, that the students are actively engaged in, and schools have truly built to be able to serve our community and give children a sense of hope inside and outside of the four walls we call our classrooms. The biggest thing is that we just have to do an overall audit. There's going to be some uncomfortable decisions that we'll have to make, but we'll do those in a sophisticated manner and one that makes sense. As I said before, we're going to protect every program, every classroom teacher that we can. They're last, but we've got to really have the conversation about everything outside of that.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. So we're going to go right to Member Vaughn and then Member Snively.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that we're going to have a workshop on charter schools, because I'd really like to have more conversation, specifically when we talk about independently managed charter schools in comparison to the other types of charter schools, and that there is a difference between them. Also, I'd like to ask that as we go through and we make hard decisions and we make cuts, that we are having ongoing conversations with our partners in municipalities, whether it's in regards to city council, county commission, to make sure that we equipped with anybody who is going to be affected by this, options that our county provides, whether it's access to health care, whether it's, ways to find other employment opportunities. I really want to make sure that as a community, we're partnering with our municipalities and supporting anybody who's going to be affected by this. And then finally, I know we weren't necessarily having a conversation about it, but where I'm hearing, that we're managing a ever-shrinking source of revenue. We're underfunded by the state. We have to compete with charter schools, whether we have different opinions or about them or not. And I understand Mrs. Snively's point to where she doesn't feel comfortable going and asking our community for a tax, and I don't think anybody feels comfortable asking anybody to pay additional taxes. But I think the key here is that we have to decide as a community what we want to put importance on, and that if public education is important to us, that we have to leave that up to the voters. And in 2022, that will give us hopefully a good amount of time to put our house in order. But from everything that you've explained, everybody has done everything that they can to keep our house in order. And I would hope that the public does have trust that we're having these conversations in full transparency, that you've created a plan to explain how we're putting our house in order, and that the public is seeing that we're doing everything that we can to be responsive, to be thoughtful about our decisions, to make sure that we're doing everything to have the strongest impact. So I think that, collectively, when we talk about supporting you and your plan, it has to be being realistic about what all alternative sources of revenue are going to be, and supporting you on whatever you think is going to help us be able to mitigate the ongoing budget crisis that we're going to have when it comes to not being funded at charter schools. So I just wanted to say that point. So thank you very much.
Yes, and can I say one thing? I'm sorry. Let me take
right
time. And I got an event that I have to go to as well that I backed up. But the one thing about the local delegation, so the local delegation, got some information from the Department of Education, and we called the Department of Education before the break just to ask them, for help, for assistance. What happens if we're here? What's our projectability? And that conversation of support went to a particular leader that's not within our county, and it started to grow legs within civic leaders. I appreciate our local delegation. They do a awesome job. Anybody that goes into the civic leadership and servant leadership is brave, and I thank them for their willingness to do so. I've also, while they wanted to have some conversations, I thought it's important for me to make certain that I have the conversation with the board first. My priority is to each of you and to the children in the community, but I will be having a meeting with our local delegations on the 19th to be able to go over this same format and be able to discuss what we potentially need for them to be able to lobby for us along the way. And I think that is important.
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you, Member Vaughn. And we're going to go ahead, and I know Superintendent Davis has to leave. Member Snively, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the only thing, you answered the first question I had, which was how do you plan to communicate this to our local legislative delegation? So I appreciate the fact that you're taking this information from today and sharing it with them, because they do, I believe, want to be in on things and need to know in order to help us solve some of the challenges that we have in our school district. And then the other thing I wanted to ask is what's next? Where do we go from here? What is the next step? Human resources allocation projections, 5-year impact. What are we looking at? You've made some recommendations today. When do you pull the trigger on some of these things, and what does that look like? What's, as far as a timeline, when can we expect to come back here and you can show us based on the CARES Act or whatever federal funding we get, what is it going to look like from this point forward?
Yes, ma'am. So I would say at this point forward, we're going to start an immediate review of and we've already started the immediate review of ROSAC, Velasco, and ISE to determine the overall effectiveness of employees, and that's the first step that we've actively engaged in. We should be done with that by the end of January, and inclusive in January, we hope that we have our CARES Act 2 funding forecast as well, what we can and cannot spend those expenditures on. And with that, I'd like to, my understanding is that money is going to be extended through now into 2023. So I'd like to build a thoughtful plan that doesn't really spend our money all on the first wave to get us out of this, this problem, to be able to creatively spend that money over the years to come, because we're going to have we don't know how long COVID expenditures will be, but we do know that COVID has exacerbated the achievement gap in mental health perspective as well. So if I can allocate money to be able to address summer bridges, before and after school programming, into strengthening to get our children back to scale, that'll help us in this process. And then we're going to, it would probably take until February to look at low under-enrolled schools, to look at potential consolidation. So I'd say by mid-February, we will have some greater information about school placement, our finalization of our allocation models for our schools. We'll have that for the beginning of February for our schools, but we'll be able to articulate the whole entire package by mid-February to the school district about where we are, what we forecast, and what we can and cannot leverage that CARES Act money to. And then, but right now, the corrective action step plan right now is pretty much in place unless we get additional funding to move in a different direction. Anything?
Yeah, and that's in addition to on the slide, the corrective action plan year 1, what we have to do between now and June 30. Our main priority is to ensure that orange line on that cash graph does not go below the red line, and that's our priority. So three priorities: cash, active payroll, working on the general fund to attempt to get to 3%, and then again, time. Time has always been the enemy. Some great suggestions in here today. I like the questions. I appreciate the questions. Our team's going to work to do what we can do to ensure that those suggestions, a lot which you have talked about today, are beyond 21-22. Remember, our enemy is time and the cash flow, the time to meet it. But we can definitely get there, and we can continue to work to make sure that we can support the entire workforce we can afford based on the revenue that we get at this time. Thank you for your comments. I do appreciate the great questions.
Thank you, gentlemen, and I appreciate that. And also, we've got a lot of great recommendations, I think, from your board today. If you have a task force, I'm sure they'll be giving you more. And then also, I know that the Gibson Consulting report was back from 2016, but there are many elements of that consulting report's recommendations that are still very relevant to our school district today, as well as the Council of Great City Schools audit that was recently completed. So thank you to that organization for that audit. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you, Member Snively, and it's recognizable that as you can hear the board, we're here to work with you and to be successful as a school district, and we will do as a board what is necessary to back you all. And knowing that instruction is the main commander and emphasis, I think most of us are definitely, on board. There were some really good questions. Board members, I just want to thank you for digging deep into this, all these numbers and all the data. I mean, you really gave and asked a lot of great questions and made up a lot of good points. Member Perez, the insurance, we need to dig into that one as well. I won't be too long, but Dr. Kemp, did we have anything from the Council of Great City Schools? Is he on the line? He's
Actually, Mr. Carlson did step back into the virtual world, so if he's on right now and he'd like to make a comment, I'd certainly like to let him. Thank you.
okay. Is it Mr. Carlson or Dr. Carlson?
Bob Carlson, Mr. Bob Carlson.
Okay. Go ahead. There he is.
You can go ahead and speak, Mr. Carlson, if you can hear us. We can make him available at another time, so if there's a virtual issue here. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Superintendent Davis, staff, and board members. We are going to conclude this workshop. See you at 4:00.
Thank you.